Okay, so for this session, it's session 4BH for any feedback. It should be being given by Chris Spencer, but that's Chris from Broadcom, but he's, for medical reasons, unable to join us today. So he's provided us a video to play of him presenting this session. So the session is determining the best use of AI to meet your IT DevOps needs, IT ops needs. So he's also not here to answer any questions, but if anyone has any questions, if you want to pop them in the chat with your email address, I can send that across to him and get him to email you across any answers to that. So hopefully this plays okay, and let me know if there's any problems.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Spence, and I'm an offering manager for AI Ops and Automation within Broadcom's mainframe division. I do have a background in machine learning and AI, as well as self-learning algorithms. In fact, I helped create the first self-learning algorithm at IBM Emerging Technologies. But if you ask my dogs what is my most important job, it's being a faithful servant to them. So, what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to be covering an interesting topic near and dear to my heart, which is determining how you can use AI today within your IT operations. First, we want to give you some insights that we have heard from customers like yourselves that are driving the evolution of AI ops in enterprise environments. We also want to talk a little bit about how you can categorize AI ops solutions to figure out where you might want to begin, as well as how solutions tend to relate to each other. I'll talk a little bit about how we as a vendor build mainframe AI ops solutions. But most importantly, I want to talk a little bit about how and what we've learned from customers in how they leverage AI ops for their own IT operations. We'll touch very briefly on AI ops architecture, kind of give you a holistic view of it, and then round things out with an AI ops checklist that you can use so that you can map out how and when you want to start your AI ops journey. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. When we talk about AI ops here at Broadcom, we talk about it in terms of not just big data analytics, which most people are familiar with, not just in terms of machine learning, which again, most people are familiar with, but what do you do with the analytics that you are able to derive from the machine learning? Well, you want to be able to intelligently automate and get items off your plate that are well understood and well known. But for AI ops solutions that are trying to do this, there is a key thing for mainframe that you have to have, and that is domain expertise within mainframe. One of the things that I usually use to explain to folks what I mean by this is if you're familiar with mainframe, you know what a DASD is. If you're on the distributed side, you may not have a clue, right? So just having that context actually allows for better analytics that in turn can help make your environments more efficient. AI ops talks about something called observability, and I'll touch on that in just a bit. But what it really means is making your data available and embracing initiatives that make that data accessible by as many folks as possible. So when we are talking about this in terms of our solutions, we talk about API first mentality, as well as embracing open. But on top of all of that, making sure that our solutions are integrated, because if you don't have access to the data, it's not really going to help you. You can deploy every AI ops solution you can think of, and it's not going to help you. Importantly, if you're not getting data from a multiplicity of sources that gives you kind of that cohesive view of your environment, then you're also not going to have a very good AI ops solution. So, okay, that's great. But what do you have to have deployed in order to take advantage of AI ops? Because after all, AI is actually in the name, right? Well, it's what I call AI table stakes. And that means you have to have an abundance of resources, a lot of high quality data. You have to have the right tools and technologies to take advantage of it, including AI libraries, as well as analytics tools. And you have to have deep and specific knowledge and expertise. And that kind of goes back to that point I made just a minute ago about mainframe domain expertise being really important for AI ops. One of the things that we note to folks who may not be that familiar with mainframe is the fact that 72% of all web and mobile applications have a dependency on mainframe. When you look at all the credit card transactions that occur, 90% of them have a dependency on mainframe. And you're literally talking about trillions of transactions that occur every single year. If you're ordering groceries from the grocery store, which is something I never did pre-COVID, but now I do quite consistently, on the back end, they actually have a dependency on mainframe with DB2 databases and whatnot. We were talking to a customer that was a state agency where their vaccine tracker for COVID-19 is actually housed and run off of their mainframe environment. All of this is powered by mainframe, something that, again, folks don't seem to realize. The other interesting thing that we always point out is how mainframe use is actually increasing. So if you look at critical workloads that are based on mainframe, at least 50% of a company's critical workloads based on mainframe, pre-COVID, that figure was around 54%. It's actually moved up since then to around 60%. Kind of depends on who you're listening to. So we know the mainframe is really important. Mainframe usage is actually ticking up as well. This is actually from a financial services company, but we found that it actually applies in general, applies to most of our customers that we've talked to, that they're seeing a significant increase in online registrations as well as app use, all of which led to a number of challenges for our customers. And again, this is across all the domains, whether it's financial services or whether it's distribution or whether it's retail. All of them are seeing an uptick in use, which means that they got a lot more data that's flowing through their mainframe systems. They're deploying more tools to try to get a handle on that increased volume, which, by the way, is adding to complexity within their mainframe environment. In some cases, or in actually many cases, those tools are generating data, but they're siloed, right? So the data may exist in a database that's only accessible to network engineers and not to system performance engineers, for instance. That siloing of data makes it more difficult to get the context of what's actually going on. And that actually is leading to the next step, which is more change, right? So as these companies adopt applications, web applications, or mobile apps, then those are actually changing the back-end environments even more rapidly. So they're deploying more DB2 instances, they're deploying more DASDs, and in essence, it's adding to a lot more churn that's going on in a mainframe environment than we've experienced in times past. Bottom line, it's adding to a lot more noise. And one of the things that customers have told us is that they really are getting buried under all the noise, trying to understand what they should be paying attention to that really are key indicators of their environment's health. So customers have told us there's a variety of needs they have that they would like to solve in either AIOps solutions or in our existing solutions that are extended. So what do they mean by that? Well, they want interactive dashboards, right? That helps raise visibility and awareness, but also helps in actually enabling different personas like L1 operators to do more than they can do today. They want to, at the same time though, reduce the complexity and actually have tools that would differentiate signal from the noise. Because why do they want those two items? They want to reduce their mean time to resolution, right? And they want to stop expensive war room situations from occurring. They also want to help get ahead of the curve. I had one customer tell me, if you get me ahead of the curve, that in and of itself is of interest to me, because if I'm responding to an issue, likely it's too late, because if I'm responding to it, it means that something's going down or we're experiencing significant issues and maybe even an outage. On top of all that, I mentioned that, there's a desire to see correlation of data across domain. This basically saying, I want the context, I want the situational awareness. And the only way I do that is knocking down the silos and making that data actually easily available so that, at the end of the day, we can figure out what's really going on. And all of that, in turn, helps us have this end-to-end awareness and transparency. Now, the key piece there is not just end-to-end awareness and transparency within the mainframe, but also extending over to the distributed side. So again, I have context. So when we talk about AI ops, you may have heard this term before, and a lot of folks who have used this term sometimes talk a lot about observability, right? And in a nutshell, basically what observability means is data availability, right? So simply making the data available. Well, you know as well as I, in the mainframe world, we've made data available forever, right? So you can cut your SMF records, you can pull data from syslog-d or vSAM datasets or whatever the case may be. So this is something that we've been doing on the mainframe side for quite a while. The next part of AI ops, typically, as you know, other folks are talking about it, is that, oh, well, making that data available then encourages visibility as well as transparency, right? So it allows you to get some context of what the data is, as well as helping to enhance that situational awareness that I talked about earlier. And of course, helps reduce MTTR. But these two things are things, again, that we've done in mainframe for a while, right? So for data availability, yes, we have metrics, logs, and traces that we've made available. For visibility and transparency, usually that is expressed in terms of dashboards and reports. And we've been doing that forever in the mainframe world. Perhaps more interestingly, when it comes to AI ops, and this is where I really think AI ops is most relevant, right? Is in the analysis that then provides awareness. So using machine learning to understand the importance of one metric over the other and the relative importance of each of those metrics to the overall health of my IT environment. That in turn allows me to do that prioritization. Oh, wait a second, that metric is really important. If that goes red, I know I'm going to have a problem in my networking, or I know I'm going to be having a problem on the system performance of this specific box because it's going to spike my CP utilization rates. But most importantly, being able to provide insights that tie the data together, to tie the data that we're making available and that we're surfacing up with context more understandable in terms of the relationship to each other, but also actually allowing us to take that first step to proactive operations in the form of predictive analytics. And last but not least, okay, you now have the analysis, you know what's really important in your mainframe environment. Can you actually enable customers to take proactive actions so that they can address an issue before it gets any worse? Or as one of my customers mentioned, if you can help me understand not when a system is getting sick, but when a system is showing signs that they could be getting sick. Because by the time it gets sick, and we notice half the time, it's on its knees and about to go down, right? So if we can give them a heads up that things are not quite normal, given their IT environment, then we can help them get ahead of the curve and really make a definitive step towards proactive operations. And that in turn reduces workload for those well-known and well-understood issues because we can remediate them without any human intervention and maybe even discover more efficient automations. So if we have an automation that takes 10 steps and your AI ops system realizes, hey, wait a second, that could be done in 8, there you go, it saves time, even if a human is still doing it. On the other hand, it could be, hey, wait a second, you could do this at 8, I'm going to go ahead and automate that, and now whenever that issue comes up, I don't have to worry about it anymore. So really, when we think about AI ops capabilities, we really embrace the last two of these items, whereas you'll see a lot of other companies talk about observability and even the visibility and transparency aspect of it. Yes, it's important because without it, you don't have AI ops. But when you're talking about AI ops capabilities themselves, the first two items are things that we've done in the mainframe forever. The last two things are the new things that AI ops can provide to mainframe environments. I want to give you a sense as to what we think of when we think of AI ops for mainframe, right? We kind of stepped back for a second and said, okay, customers, what do you want AI ops to do for you? Step number one was to help detect and identify issues before they become outages, right? and let them anticipate when there may be problems in their mainframe environment. Step number 2 was provide me a method where I can investigate and understand what those issues are so I can get to the root cause through analysis. And if you could do those first 2 steps, you enable the prioritization. Okay, I know that these key metrics can lead to an outage for my business critical service or application. If I see any of those go off, it's going to get high priority attention. And then what I want to do is be able to automate. So for those issues that I've done the analysis on and I prioritize as being important, if I see one of those going out of the norm and I know how to address it, automate the immediate remediation of that issue. So now I am preventing issues from becoming outages. And that's exactly what AIOps' promise is. Now, of course, you can't do any of this if you don't integrate in, again, across your solutions, across domains, and also ideally to the distributed side of the house. When we looked at our portfolio, we looked at those last 2 capabilities that I mentioned in AIOps that we view as AIOps capabilities, and we further broke down our solutions in terms of advanced analytics, proactive operations, so the tools that you're familiar with that you use to help monitor and manage your mainframe operations. Now let's add in some predictive analytics capabilities so that they become proactive components in your overall AIOps strategy. And then toss in intelligent automation. Of course, we're not resting on our laurels. We're also doing research into additional capabilities and functions that customers have told us are really important. And those are readying us, as well as our customers, for the future. So, okay, all that's great. But how have customers been leveraging AIOps and AI to help them with their operational efficiencies or needs? Well, in this case, when we talk about anticipate issues, right? Again, we're trying to help them get ahead of the curve with predictive analytics. So we're looking for abnormalities. And what we're doing is we're building a model of your existing mainframe environment, and then we're monitoring your mainframe environment to see when a specific metric or a specific series of metrics kicks off that suggests that there may be something important that's headed your way in an hour or 2, within a week, and in one case, with a customer of ours, 2 weeks ahead of when they would normally notice the issue. We also, of course, want to provide real-time insights by leveraging machine learning algorithms that aren't just algorithms that our data scientists make, but are algorithms that are actually informed by subject matter expertise that we get from our own Broadcom experts, as well as our customers, right? So our algorithms and our modeling system is built based upon feedback from customers. Our modeling system builds a model based on each customer's unique mainframe environment. And then we start applying analytics that are based on algorithms that we've worked with customers to determine. So second step is analyzing the performance, right? So how do we maximize those operational efficiencies that we identified in the anticipation stage? And we use everything from differential analysis to multi-metric analysis. And then we surface them up in terms of dashboards and visualizations, as well as reports that can be generated from our solutions. And then, in turn, those 2 efforts allow our customers to start prioritizing what's important to them. That pattern of alerts we know has a higher priority than a previous pattern that we saw that was causing alarm. But the second pattern is actually even more important. All right, make that issue a higher priority than the first one, right? So being able to understand patterns is extremely important, and that's something that machine learning does very well, by the way. But in addition, doing decluttering. So we have one customer where they had 250,000 alerts every single day, and we were able to declutter down to about 6 issues that they tell us were highly, highly relevant and actually helped prevent outages, again, 2 weeks ahead of when their team would normally notice it. And then finally, being able to present data in a way that's visually easily understood, but also visually gives you an idea of the context in which this alert is happening or this issue is happening. And we do that through application topology and specifically highlighting hotspots. And then I mentioned, hey, we also want to be able to help you automate intelligently. So we use predictive analytics to tell you, hey, we see something's going out of the norm for your mainframe environment. When we see these two metrics go out of the norm, so outside the 90% of normal activity that we see within your mainframe environment, we know it's caused by an underlying issue. So one example of this was a customer noticed that whenever their whenever a specific DB2 instance would be degrading in performance, an initial indicator was a burst of network traffic. And that would overload their DB2 system. And by the way, it overloaded for a very good reason. It was literally being pounded by millions of requests every second. And so they knew as soon as they saw a spike in the network traffic that was going to be causing an issue. And as that network traffic built, eventually they would have an issue with one of their switches. So they were looking for that network traffic spike. They were then looking for a way to distribute the network load across a multiplicity of additional switches so that they could prevent that from happening, as well as that multiplicity of network switches pointing to a multiplicity of replicated instances of the DB2 instance so that they could actually service those requests within their SLA agreed time periods. So again, it helps avoid an SLA outage. And that was something that was a high priority. On top of that, being able to help teams stay ahead of changing needs. So as you're experiencing changes in how users are using the applications that rely upon our mainframe backend systems, being able to detect that as well as alert you to those changing patterns so that you could take the appropriate actions as required. Now, for those actions that do lend themselves to automation, absolutely take advantage of that intelligent automation. And that way we can help automate not only the discovery and alert analysis, but also potentially the remediation. And in this case, as you can see, it resulted in a 40% reduction in manual effort. And then, of course, integrate for visibility. And we're talking again about end-to-end awareness through integration. So integrate with mainframe data sources to distributed and cloud data sources and analysis programs. Integrate between our own solutions within the mainframe side of the equation. Provide end-to-end transparency. And that is actually means providing data to the distributed side as well as being able to consume data from the distributed side. That in turn is what we hear from customers over and over and over again is what they need, right? Because if I don't have any transparency on the distributed side, how do I get the context of something when a mobile app starts experiencing problems and we're trying to trace where that problem actually started from, right? Whether it's on the mainframe side of the house or the distributed side of the house. And last but not least, making data available via APIs. I talked about that a little bit earlier in our embrace of open. Now, one thing we do talk about is, your AIOps solution should enable integration from mobile to mainframe, right? Again, it's important so that you get the context of where there may be issues coming from the distributed side of the house. That means that we want to share alerts with distributed as well as consume their alerts. It means we want to share mainframe metrics as well as consume distributed metrics. And same thing for topology, right? A topology that is segregated just to mainframe or just to distributed is not all that helpful if you're actually trying to trace where a problem originated from. So being able to tie those two topologies together, again, by sharing information and consuming information, we make that possible to provide that end-to-end view. So, have customers been succeeding with AIOps solutions? And I'll just let the numbers speak for themselves. I talked about the 40% reduction in manual effort. Again, I need to update this slide because we just heard from the same actual large financial services company that has deployed our AIOps solutions, and they were able to actually say, well, wait a second, we started seeing indications of this through your solutions 2 weeks before we would even notice something was going off the rails. So we literally helped prevent outages from occurring for this specific customer. And then last but not least, using our AIOps solutions to understand, how their systems are functioning, how they're configured, and even more importantly, how they adhere or do not adhere to best practices, in this case, security best practices for their ESMs. Using our solutions, they were able to reduce the time it takes for them to monitor as well as validate and verify adherence to those best practices, which, by the way, is important for audit purposes, but also incredibly important when you have a breach with GDPR. If you could show them, hey, look, I got this audit trail that I've been, every single day, we go out and we check our ESM settings and best practices to make sure that they are secure, and that in turn helps reduce the risk for the company. Now, at a high level, as a vendor, we talk about hybrid IT systems all the time, but the whole reason why this slide exists is to explain we build our solutions in a way that takes advantage of hybrid IT environments. The vast majority of our solutions live on mainframe. Why? Because they traditionally have been monitoring and managing mainframe environments. And you want those applications to live as close to the issue as possible, so they're going to live natively on mainframe. But what we noticed is that there are opportunities to move non-critical workloads off mainframe to take advantage of unique characteristics that live and exist within distributed or even cloud. So maybe it's an analytics solution that you really don't want to be responsible for the support and maintenance costs. So in that case, it makes sense to take advantage of a cloud analytics solution because you don't have to worry about the support maintenance costs. You simply pay for the service itself. For distributed, you may have applications that are doing analysis, but you want them in real time. So you need to move the analysis closer to the source, to the mainframe environment. Or maybe it's a workload that can be run in Z-Linux or ZCX, in which case it lives on platform. But there is a spectrum of needs, and how they align to where it makes sense for that application to live. That's how we, as a software vendor, have created our solutions. So you'll see a lot of our solutions live exclusively on-prem, on platform, on mainframe. Some of our solutions live in distributed. Typically, those are some analytics capabilities that are consuming data from the mainframe. And in some cases, where the data is not very sensitive, and where we know that we could do processing much faster and we can change the analysis much quicker, maybe it's a relatively new analysis that we're doing, then it makes sense to live in the cloud because we don't want our customers to have to pay the support and maintenance costs of those applications. So it's a matter of moving, non-critical workloads off platform if it makes sense to, as well as at the same time being able to ingest the results of the analysis, as well as key data generated from that analysis back into the mainframe environment so we get the context. Now, we do this leveraging APIs. So we here at Broadcom are actually one of the founding members of the Zoe initiative and Open Mainframe initiative. And so we've adopted the Zoe mediation layers and the Zoe API catalog, for instance. Of course, all that goes hand in hand in securing the data, especially if it goes to the cloud. And so we make sure that the data is encrypted, not only in flight, but at rest in the cloud environment. And we make sure that there's a lot of resiliency built in because honestly, we've noticed that cloud applications are not as resilient as mainframe environments. Big surprise, right? So when you look at the spectrum here, we call this intelligent hybrid. It means that we as a vendor are designing our solutions to be intelligently leveraging resources in the way that our customers have told us they want our solutions to leverage resources, but at the same time, it fits perfectly within a hybrid IT environment, right? So we actually do practice what we preach, not only in terms of, how hybrid IT environments work in that it's a mix between mainframe, distributed, and cloud, but in how we deliver our solutions as well. So I mentioned we talked about an AIOps checklist. Let's kind of go through it really quickly. So first, lay out the key objectives that you have for AIOps so that it can enhance your operations, right? And this is really important because these key objectives will be the metrics in which you goalpost against to see your progress towards adoption of AIOps. Secondly, understand where you may have some gaps today. These opportunities are actually what's going to enhance your operational efficiencies, right? So understanding those gaps is very key. Third, determine which solutions that can actually meet those first two items that we have on our checklist, right? Because that's going to help you address your objectives and your business needs. And that in turn is really important for understanding how you would lay out an incremental deployment plan. We do not encourage customers to go all in with AIOps from day one because it's going to be a lot of work and it can be very complicated and it may actually reduce the payoff that you will experience in terms of your investment and getting a return on that investment. You should be able to work with your solution vendor to figure out what incremental deployment plan makes sense for you that allows you to kind of target relatively small goals and encapsulated goals that allows you to easily measure and track, is this AIOps solution doing what we thought it was going to do for us or not? And then last, as you start to implement and execute on your plan, you should be able to use your AIOps solution to analyze and monitor your progress. After all, that's what AIOps solutions do, right? So use your AIOps solution to help monitor your progress on adopting AIOps itself. And that's how you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck in terms of leveraging your AIOps solution to help you make this journey. So, when I talk about a journey, it really is still underway, right? So when we talk to customers about what they would like to see in the future, it's, hey, I want dynamic and auto-discovered topology. I want to enhance the use of automation with my AIOps tools. I want instant analysis for not only alerts, but for key metrics. And that will give me contextual insights so that I can better understand what's going on, what my mainframe is trying to tell me, for instance. I want to be able to expand to cross-platform integrations so that I am able to pull data from a multiplicity of sources. Now, if we're talking about network data, for instance, it may be network mainframe data as well as distributed network data, as well as even cloud network data, right? I want to enable collaboration between my teams so that I can get rid of those war rooms and go straight to the teams that are directly impacted by this issue. And eventually, I want to use AI as an assistive technology to aid remediation and understanding of what's going on in my mainframe environment. We hope that AIOps will be able to help your IT operations. Our suggestion, of course, we're a little bit biased, is that AI should be at the forefront of your AIOps strategy and innovation because, after all, AI is literally built into the name. We suggest you don't wait, right? Because the longer you wait, your competitors aren't, right? And so you're going to eventually get to a point where you're at a disadvantage. We've specifically been encouraging mainframe teams to do this because their distributed side of the house is already adopting AIOps solutions, so you don't want to be behind the curve on this, and you want to be able to influence the direction of AIOps across the IT environment, right? So getting involved today helps you get a seat at the table, if you will. Your initial AI target, you should keep it simple because the more complicated it is, the more difficult it's going to be for you to understand, are you making progress or are you actually backsliding? And then as you start implementing your AIOps solution, be sure that you're always listening, learning, and adjusting and taking into consideration what are the business needs and priorities that you have. One thing I can guarantee you is that this is going to be dynamic, and it's going to be changing. And so you have to be flexible enough to change as your needs change. AIOps gives you a unique opportunity to do just that. So with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I had fun in going through our perspective and our viewpoint on AIOps. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to give me a shout. You can reach me at Spence, S-P-E-N-C-E, at Broadcom.com. Thanks again so much for your time, and I do appreciate it. And we wish you the best in your AIOps journey. And if we can be of help at all, just let us know. We'd be more than happy to.
Great, so thank you for joining, and thank you to Chris for pre-recording that for us despite not being able to be here. So that session was 4BH, if you can go and give some feedback. Thank you very much.